Good afternoon and welcome to Real Talk with Brian Podeska. I am Lyndon Wilson. I'm the creator of The Difference. The Difference is a radio live stream and podcast media platform where we take small business owners all across the state of Texas, but mainly focusing in the DFW area. So it's entrepreneurs, small business owners, and real estate professionals. And we give them the opportunity to share their vision of what business ownership and giving back to the community is all about, and how they make a difference in what they do in their business, in their career, and in their community. So we have Brian Podeska today. He is the host of this show. I am the co-host. I'm his trusty sidekick. I'm going to bring Brian in now. What's up, Brian? How are you?
Good, Lennon. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Just, continuing to do these shows every day. And I couldn't be more blessed, mainly because I get to meet so many new people. You guys bring on good guests every show, every week, every month. And so how fortunate am I to get to sit and listen to some of the stories, the back end and the history of how they got where they are today, and what what's made the difference to allow them to do an exceptional job in their industry, and then what their plans are for the future. So I'm like a sponge, man. I get to hear all of this, and I'm taking notes. I'm writing a book over here, basically, of all the exciting things and the knowledge that they're sharing. So I'm soaking it up.
I'm sure we'll all get royalties from all the knowledge that we're,
That would be awesome, wouldn't it? So how's everything with Real Property Management Focus? Tell everybody a little bit about what that is, who you are, and just in case they haven't heard your show before.
For sure. So Real Property Management Focus is the property management company that I own. We focus on your real estate investments. To answer your question, Lennon, business is going great. It's this is typically the slower time of the real estate season, but I think because of the virus, everything got kicked down the road a little bit, and there really hasn't been a stop to the real estate season or a slowdown, other than when the virus first hit. But after that, it's just been full steam ahead. So a little bit about our company. We offer full service property management services. So that's tenant screening, tenant selection, full listing on MLS and 75 other different websites for your rental property, rent collection, maintenance coordination, eviction, all the standard things that most property management companies are going to offer. One thing that we cater to is the investor. So we have a tool called Wealth Optimizer, which basically helps the investor look at their investment property from a holistic approach, basically looking at all the advantages that a rental property has to offer, not just cash flow. A lot of people look at just cash flow and what your property is cash flowing. Well, there's more things that go into that than just cash flow. So there's things like, obviously, appreciation of real estate is huge, but there's also depreciation. So the cost of your rental property, you can take depreciation to lower your income for tax purposes. So little hidden benefits like that Wealth Optimizer has to offer, that we can kind of consult with you as an investor. So that is us. That's Real Property Management Focus, where we focus on your real estate investments. But today we've got Greg Holdberg with us. And we're not going to talk real estate per se. I think we're going to focus this more on the entrepreneur, or even those that have health insurance through an employer. So the topic of the day is health insurance, and it's that time of year. The marketplace open enrollment begins November, so a lot of folks have this top of mind. So that's kind of why I wanted to bring Greg onto the program to really educate folks on what the process is and let everybody know that there's options outside of the marketplace for the entrepreneur. And even for those who are employed by a large employer, as I was for 20 years, it was very easy to just check the boxes and pick, off the menu of 2 or 3 different major options. But as time has gone on, one big cost avoidance or cost saver for a major corporation is trimming back employee benefits. And the biggest one of that is healthcare, right? So over the last 10, 15 years, pretty much every major company out there has trimmed back their benefits. Some have taken them away almost entirely. They still offer something, but what I wanted to bring Greg on the show today is to just educate folks on there are other options outside of your marketplace, and even for an employee with a large company, there's options outside of your employer's benefits as well.
Awesome. Well, Greg, it is great to have you on the show today. Looking forward to hearing about what you do, why you do it, how you do it, who you help, how you help them, all those good things of how you're making the difference through your industry and your career. So go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about you. And while you're up there, I'm also gonna pop up. I've got your website here. Thank you for sharing that link with me. But I'll pop that up while you're speaking, so people can kind of get an idea of where that is and what it looks like, and hopefully go there and get more information for you.
Sure. Thank you. And really nice to be here. My background, I started off in the IT industry back when they called it data processing. So, which was about 1975 is when I got my degree. And my dad thought it would be probably best to have me get involved in these new things, computers, that we're seeing to be becoming a big thing. So was in the now IT industry and moved into doing business resiliency, which is writing disaster recovery plans for the computer systems, as well as writing the business recovery plans for the departments. As a matter of fact, a lot of plans that I've written contain pandemic plans, and pieces of that are being used in this current situation we're in, although these plans, I'm sure, were nowhere near what was needed, because no one could have anticipated this kind of an event. Was with a company, the last company I was with them a little over 10 years, and they decided that my position should be in India, and I wasn't interested in moving to India, but of course they never asked. The good news was that they gave me a fairly decent severance package to walk me out, left on good terms, and I became kind of interested in what I wanted to do. Got involved in insurance, mainly in the life side. Wasn't real thrilled with that, as it didn't feel like my calling. And a lot of people I would talk with, they were saying, "Gee, we'd love to buy, like life insurance from you. However, all our money's going towards healthcare. Do you know of any type of healthcare that's going to be less than what we're paying now?" And of course, as everyone's aware of, healthcare has just gone through the roof. A lot of measures, the Affordable Care Act, never really did much for the average person as far as lowering costs. As a matter of fact, it went up. So eventually what happened was, and the big break came when the government kicked out the affordable, I'm sorry, not the affordable, but the individual mandate portion of the Affordable Care Act. And that was the part there, if you didn't have insurance, they were going to charge you in the neighborhood of $2,000 for not doing anything. And even if you had a plan that you liked, does that sound familiar? If you keep your plan, if it didn't meet their needs, they said, fine, you can keep that, but you've got to pay a penalty because this does not meet what the requirements are. Once they kicked that out, it was a game changer. Everything changed at that point. Companies began offering pretty much what you require, what your actual needs were. And then they started changing the rules as far as pre-existing conditions and so forth. Now, if you have a serious pre-existing condition, the Affordable Care Act, going out to healthcare.gov, those type of things is generally where you want to head, because most insurance companies will still not cover a pre-existing condition that's pretty serious.
Greg, real quick on pre-existing conditions. That's something I kind of want to dig down on. Also want to find out more about the pandemic.
Sure.
Because on a pre-existing condition, how does we hear that all the time. That's a big political point, people trying to I mean, that's been a big sticking point through this whole entire presidential election. How does an insurance company stay in, I mean, it'd be like a pre-existing condition, in my opinion, and this is, I want your expertise. That's kind of like me wrecking my car and then going and trying to get insurance to get it fixed.
Right.
So I understand the importance of being able to be covered, especially health. Health is different than a wrecked car. I get it. But also the insurance companies have to be able to stay in business. They have to stay viable. How do they manage that, the pre-existing condition, especially in some very severe situations? Can you talk on that a little bit?
Sure. And this is why the premiums are so high in that area. And it's because under the new law, they are required to take you on no matter what you have. I could be diagnosed with lung cancer tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow, go to the healthcare.gov and sign up. Is it going to be expensive? Oh yeah, it's going to be very expensive. But it's not going to be as expensive as it used to be, because people that are healthy, and this is the whole premise of the Affordable Care Act, is you got a whole bunch of healthy people that never use their insurance paying into this thing and paying high premiums. If you don't have any money, you get subsidized. And so therefore you can have your pre-existing taken care of. But that created a lot of different problems. And you're right, insurance companies really balked at that initially, because they say, wait a minute, so we're going to take on somebody that's going to have, $200,000-$300,000 worth of medical bills. We'll go broke. And basically the government just said, well, don't worry about it, because we're going to mandate that everybody have insurance. So all these people in their 20s and 30s that have no health problems, that rarely even go see the doctor once a year, they're going to be paying into this thing, which is going to offset that cost. So that's how that worked. Once they dropped the individual mandate, and the younger healthy people started dropping out, this is what's sort of the death nail to the Affordable Care Act. Right. Because you're not having that large pool of healthy people anymore. They're going off, and now they're able to talk to brokers such as myself that work with a lot of different companies to determine, okay, I want to buy what my needs are. I don't need, for instance, somebody that's in, I say even older, somebody that's in their 50s and 60s, they don't need health, or they don't need health care that's going to cover pregnancy, but not unless there's a miracle involved.
Haven't seen that one yet.
Right. So it's ridiculous that you have to cover those things. They have to cover things like drug abuse and alcohol treatments, those type of things. And a lot of people, that's not an issue with them, and they don't want to pay for that kind of thing. So they've actually, which is actually how I got my name of my company, is Liberator Health Insurance, is because you're now liberated to do what you want. You can put together any type of plan that meets your needs. My role in this is to help you get the best coverage and get and advise you on what type of plan you should really get, that's going to be affordable, and that's going to be there should you actually need it. If you're in a car accident, or if God forbid you are diagnosed with something. But I talk to a lot of people that are looking at, especially with COVID, they've been let go from their company. They're looking at starting their own business. And one of the things that's preventing them from taking that plunge is how much their health insurance is. And I also have people that are looking at buying homes, and some of these, I've run into people that are paying $1,500, $1,600, up to $1,800 a month, and that's more than their house payment would be. So
right.
If you can pare that down, and generally I can pretty much easily cut that in half. Usually, they can then apply that to their home or savings or 401ks or whatever it is that they want. Blow it on hats, whatever they want to buy it, and knowing that they're still covered. So that's been sort of a breakthrough with healthcare as far as the Affordable Care Act. Yes, if you have a terrible, horrible pre-existing condition, you're going to have to go that direction. I send people there and just say, I can't help you. But if you're under 65 and relatively healthy, I mean, you can have certain pre-existing conditions, and you get rated up a little bit, but not much, but you can get good coverage. And so that's part of my job, is to work with you to find out what you can get for the best value for the dollar, and have peace of mind, and yet it's not going to break the bank.
How do insurance companies determine what is pre-existing? And I mean that by, obviously if you went to a doctor and was diagnosed with cancer or,
Right.
something like that, and now you've got to get insurance, you're obviously going to know what that is. But what if someone had an illness 10 years ago, that illness went away, and now all of a sudden they're trying to get insurance and it comes back after, let's say, for instance, I had an illness 10 years ago and I got insurance with you today and was diagnosed tomorrow with the same illness, but I hadn't seen a doctor or nothing. Is that considered pre-existing, or what is that? How is that looked at?
Yeah, it kind of depends on the company, how far back they're going to want to check. Now, most companies, they'll go back, a lot of ones I work with, they'll go back 5 years. I've had some that'll go back 7. I had one that even went back 10 years. If you've gone that long, you're pretty much, taking care of the pre-existing condition issue. What they're mainly concerned with, and this is where you can kind of get, it pays to have some knowledge here. I've had situations where a person has been prescribed a drug, and that particular drug is used in Alzheimer's patients, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this will come up. There's something called the Medical Insurance Board, MIB, not Men in Black, but Medical Insurance Board. And anytime a doctor diagnoses you with something and it goes on your insurance, or your insurance pays it, or if they give you a prescription and you put it through your insurance, it goes into that database. Now, in a lot of cases, you can be prescribed a drug that's for one thing, but it has multiple uses. So that's where we get in and say, no, this person does not have Alzheimer's. They took it because here's another use that the doctor is using it for, and that's something that's perfectly acceptable. And there's a number of those things, but usually what happens is most insurance companies, they have this list, and it's a hard copy list that are immediate declines. And they, based in a lot of it, like for instance, cancers, it depends on the cancer, it depends on how long ago it was diagnosed. And, if you had treatment and it hasn't reoccurred, it's not so hard to get insurance in that standpoint. Obviously, if you have an existing case of cancer, that's going to be a, healthcare.gov type issue. Go out to the website.
Right.
But it's actually how you are understanding, the different companies and which ones are a little bit more lenient than other ones. Heart conditions, it depends on what it is and how long it's been since you were last treated or had issues with it. Diabetes is another one. Some companies will, balk at that. One of the big factors is smoking, of course. Insurance companies hate smokers because they know it's going to cost them a lot of money eventually. Oh, and one other point that's kind of interesting, insurance companies are terrified over vaping. They're now, a number of companies are starting to rate people that vape the same fee rate up that they do with smokers, because there's not that much known about vaping yet. They don't know what the long-term effect of this is. So they're playing it safe, and a lot of insurance companies are going ahead and rating people up. And as a former smoker, I wished I had vaping to help me quit. I quit cold turkey the hard way, and I wish I had vaping to help me. But that is something that insurance companies are taking a good hard look at. So these things vary based on what their declines are and what their rate ups are.
Okay.
Public service announcement: vaping is not a healthy alternative to smoking.
Yeah, it's kind of up in the air on as far as the government goes right now. They've been looking to regulate that. I don't know where they stand now, but it's definitely, it doesn't seem to be as neutral as you would think.
Yeah.
Let's talk now a little bit about the pandemic plan. So you're telling me that insurance has pandemic plans, and they had this before COVID came out. So I've never heard of that before. Talk a little bit about that. What is someone looking for if they're looking for a pandemic plan? Is it a situation like COVID? What does that cover? Talk about that.
Well, there's two different variances of that. One is just your regular company that has to have some sort of plans in place should something like this occur. And that's okay. What do we do with our people? Well, everybody went home. Well, not everybody can work from home, so you had to have plans to make sure that you could have people set up and so forth. The plans that insurance companies had for COVID, again, they got caught like everybody else, flat-footed on this thing because they had no idea it was going to be like this. If you go back in history, back to the 1918, where we had the Spanish flu back then, and you had the numbers vary, but the smaller numbers, 50 million dead from the pandemic of 1918. Yes, it was much more virulent and stronger than this one. But how did companies react? So that was the only thing that insurance companies had to go by, was history. And if someone, as far as had a COVID, was given a COVID diagnosis, insurance companies treated just like if you were diagnosed with a pneumonia or any type of upper respiratory infection. It wasn't that big of a deal. But now they're starting to turn the corner. Some companies are even starting to ask people, have you been diagnosed, in the last year, because that's when this thing happened, is positive for COVID. And those are going into underwriting, and they want to get the details. Now they will cover you. I've not ever heard of a decline, unless obviously if you're on a respirator, they probably won't take you on. But if you've been diagnosed with it and it's been a while, you'll get coverage. Some, however, are looking at a small rate up for it because they're starting to find that there's some after effects from it. But again, they don't know for sure. So their pandemic plans, as far as dealing with their customers, it's evolving. It's a lot more than what they had anticipated, because even if you go back again to 1918, they didn't close the country. We were wide open. They asked some businesses to spread people out as far as different shifts, maybe start staggering shifts, those type of things, and it was mainly to lessen the amount of people that were on public transportation, was the thought behind that. But again, insurance companies, like all the companies that are out there, are learning as they go on how this should be treated and how they should respond to it. So it's very fluid right now.
Yeah. So Greg we have a lot of obviously within our community here at The Difference, we have an audience of about 50,000 people. A lot of those are small business owners, entrepreneurs. And as a small business owner, you don't have the opportunity a lot of times, like an employee does, to get on a company plan that can save some money. So give us a little bit of insight and thought about or advice about what a small business owner needs to do to be able to find affordable health insurance for himself, his family, and maybe sometimes even with some employees. What are our options out there?
Okay. Yeah, there's a couple of variances on that. You can have, before I get into the private entrepreneur, you can be working for a company and they have really lousy insurance, or they've decided not to carry it at all, or they have really good insurance for you, but they won't cover your family.
Right. Or
to add your family, it's extremely just obscene. And then with the COVID thing going on, there's a whole lot of people losing their jobs, and they're on COBRAs, and they're realizing, gee, I guess I shouldn't have been so rude to my boss because I had no idea how much they were paying, because now you're shouldering the whole responsibility of it. So whatever your situation is, whether you're just starting out as an entrepreneur or you have a company that's been around for a while and you need coverage, or you'd like to offer coverage to your employees, there's a lot of different options that you can go. One of the big changes, one of the big game changers are what's called indemnity plans. Now, you've got your major medical, and that's where the big question you ask with major medical is, how much do I have to pay before they start to pay?
Right.
And to lower your premiums, you basically will raise your deductible. Say, well, I see $5,000 deductibles all day long. And also then they'll pay like 80%, you pay 20, or they'll pay 70 and you pay 30. And to keep the cost down, again, you'll raise that from 80 up to the 70 amount. And it seems like anything you can do to lower that cost. And one of the big issues is 90% of people never meet that deductible. And I'm thinking, what a business. You get people paying in all this money and they'll never meet their deductible. At least 90% of them won't. There's some that do, but for the most part, it's a money-making machine. And part of the problem that I've come across, and I was in the same boat until I got into this business, people don't know what they have until they go to the hospital, or they have to go into a clinic and do something, and then they get the big surprise bill. But so in your major medical side, you're very much in the dark with what it really covers. They'll tell you, okay, you pay the first 5, and then it'll kick in, and we'll cover 80% of it. You're on the hook for 20, but then there's a maximum out of pocket. But then you get these bills that just, well, this is not reasonable and customary, and you're left kind of holding the bag on these things. And so there's a lot of people that, even though they've got pretty decent health coverage, they're still on the hook for expenses. I had a lady that lives in my neighborhood that her child got scalded with hot coffee, 2-year-old. Well, they don't mess around with 2-year-olds. So literally they had the helicopter come land in the field across the street and take the kid to the burn center in downtown Dallas. Well, as it turns out, the burns weren't that bad. So the insurance company said, well, they weren't that bad, so this is not really warranted to have the helicopter trip. But that mother is not going to argue with the EMT that's out there telling her that they want to call the helicopter in. Her bill was $52,000 for that helicopter ride, and the insurance company declined it. Now, what will happen is she'll negotiate. They'll pay a little bit, but she's going to have to pay probably, I'm going to say, in the neighborhood of $15,000, $20,000 out of pocket for that. So the goal is to educate yourself. And this was where you get into the indemnity side. Indemnity does it a little bit different. Rather than saying, how much money do I have to pay before the insurance pays, indemnity plans are set up towards how much does the insurance company pay before I have to pay. As an example, the average hospital room, and I'm not talking about the doctors or nurses or anything like that, but just to have the room, the average cost in Dallas is about between $1,800 and $2,000. Okay. In an indemnity plan, if you set it up properly, and a lot of the ones I do, for the hospital room, they'll pay $3,000 a day. Flat rate. It doesn't matter if your bill's $500. You're going to get $3,000. And they will pay the hospital direct, and then they'll cut you a check for the difference. But the other advantage you have is you have the opportunity, if you just go to the doctor or go to a clinic or something, you can negotiate a cash price. And doctors love cash prices because they don't have to pay any insurance companies. You pay it yourself. You can negotiate the bill down, submit the bill, and like, for instance, a doctor visit in an indemnity plan will say pay $120 for a doctor visit. You negotiate the doctor down to an $80 cash fee. You pay the doctor the $80. You submit it. You get a check for $120. The insurance company on an indemnity plan, they don't pay any more. They don't pay any less than what the pre-established amount is. Not really the way to make money, but I do know people that have gotten checks back and they've been afraid to cash them because they think some big bill's coming. And I've had to tell them, no, this is your money. It's the amount that was left over from what the indemnity plan paid. And if you structure them right, you have to be careful with it. And that's where I come in to work with you to make sure that there's enough indemnity coverage there to make sure that you're not going to have to pay, or you have to pay very little out of pocket. And one of the other advantages, there is no deductible. It just pays. So it's not like, for instance, you want to go get a procedure done, they'll say, well, you haven't met your deductible yet, so the first $2,000 or $5,000 is on you. Then after that, we'll pay 80-20 type thing. This is no, you can find out how much something costs, and then take a look at your policy and negotiate with them on what something would cost. And real quick, there's an app out there that I encourage, no matter what you do for insurance, you need to have this on your phone. It's called Healthcare Blue Book, and it's fantastic. You can go out there and you can see how much a procedure costs. So let's just say you were out jogging in the morning, something that I should do more of, but I don't. And I started having problems with my knee. And I go to the doctor, and the doctor says, I'm going to send you down the road to get an MRI. And in Dallas, the price differences on an MRI is between $400 and $4,600 for the same procedure. But if you don't know that and you get hit with the bill of $4,600 or $4,000, what are you going to do? If
Right.
you know in advance that you need an MRI, and in this particular example I gave, you can call them up and saying, I need a MRI on my knee. How much do you charge? And they'll say $4,000. You can tell them, hey, Healthcare Blue Book says that the low rate on this is $400, but the average price is $700. What are you going to do for me? And I have had customers of mine do that and call me up later and say, I can't believe it. Just on the phone call, they've dropped. A lady had a mammogram. They charged her. It was one of the ones where they do all the different types of 3D imaging and all that. They hit her for $720. And I told her about Healthcare Blue Book. She went out. She found out that the going rate on that, the average fair price on that is about $205, $210. She called them up, and just on that phone call, they said, okay, and they dropped it down to the $210.
Wow. That's crazy.
It's one of the most powerful things you can have is knowledge, and Healthcare Blue Book gives it to you. So you know, and the price that it gives is the negotiated rate of what the insurance company pays.
Okay.
That's not the cash price. You could go even lower if you're willing to pay cash and then submit it to one of these indemnity plans. So not really the way you want to make money, but in those particular situations, you can actually make money doing it.
Wow, that's awesome. Tell me a little bit more. I'm really curious about the indemnity plan versus your regular insurance and
Sure.
the difference in premiums. Do
Yep.
you pay more on an indemnity because of how they cover, or is that are the premiums, monthly premiums, going to be comparable to either or?
Yeah, on an indemnity plan, you will pay 30 to 60% less than a traditional major medical plan. And the reason behind that is because the insurance companies, they know how much they're going to be on the hook for. Okay. With the major medical, and again, they're the ones that they have to accept people with pre-existing conditions. Whereas with if you're fairly healthy, the indemnity plans will go ahead and take you. So what they're doing is they're taking that pool of healthy people, and so they can offer up very, very discounted prices. And plus they know what they're going to pay. So they know if you go to the doctor, they're going to pay $120. They won't pay any more. They won't pay any less. Now, a doctor that just charges more than $120 for a doctor visit, you need to change doctors. That's too much. But that's where Healthcare Blue Book comes in. They'll tell you how much a visit should be. And then you can negotiate with your doctor if you want. And you have the choice of just handing them your card, because there's a large PPO with most of these. Or you can withhold the card and say, I want to be a cash price buyer. How much is this going to be? So, but what this does is, the biggest difference I would say between the indemnity plans and the major medical is it gives you the ability to take control of this. So now you're in the driver's seat. You can then negotiate, these prices with healthcare providers. There's something else that's also attached. There are companies out there whose profession is to negotiate hospital bills, and you sign up with them and you hand them the bill. And reading a hospital bill is crazy, and that's by design. They don't want you to know how much things cost. But I've had one lady, she was in the hospital, she was cold, she asked for an extra blanket, so that she had an extra blanket for 3 days. They charged her $60 a day for that blanket. Just obscene.
What?
Yeah. In this company, one of the ones I work with, and I include these in my plans too, and it doesn't cost very much when I bundle these things like this. You can turn over a hospital bill over to them. They'll go through it line for line. The industry average is 70% of hospital bills are wrong, and it's usually in their favor. And they will also contest how much they charge for things, because they have things like Healthcare Blue Book and a number of different tools on what something should cost, and they'll negotiate the bill down for you. And there's no charge to do that. It's part of the plans that I sell. So it puts you back in control. And if you don't want to be in control, I had one lady, she had this company, it was called Caris 360, negotiate her hospital bill down. And then she thought, well, I wonder if I can get them down any more. So she called them back up, and she negotiated with them again and got them to drop another $200.
That's great. So
Yeah.
I don't feel like I've been sleeping under a rock, but apparently I have, because I've never heard of indemnity insurance for health insurance before.
Right.
I've heard of indemnity insurance for the hole-in-one golf type, those kind of crazy things.
Right.
I'm not an insurance expert, but has this been around long, and why is it not more well known? Because I don't hear about it on the news.
Right.
I don't hear about it anywhere.
Well, it's something that your Blue Crosses and Blue Shields really don't like, for obvious reasons.
Yeah,
But
obviously.
indemnity plans have been around for a long time. Aflac is an indemnity plan.
Okay.
However, Aflac does not offer the hospitalization. They basically will pay you. If you go into the hospital, they'll pay you like $300 a day. Okay. That's an indemnity plan. But what these do is these are focused on the actual health care side of it. And one of the reasons why most people don't know about this is what was the Affordable Care Act, the individual mandate got kicked out about, what was it, not quite 2 years now. So these are new. And the general public do not know about this. And a lot of it is they're confused by it. They don't understand. So part of what I do is I don't really like to use the term that I sell them insurance. Basically what I do is I explain to them, this is how a major medical plan works. And this is how an indemnity plan works. This pays this much and this pays this much. And here's how much the premiums are. And 9 out of 10 times they're ready to sign it right then and there. But I always say, talk to me tomorrow. I want you to go through it because I give them a bunch of information. Go through it. Let's talk tomorrow, and you can tell me what you want to do. And I'd say more than 90% of the time they end up signing up because they really begin to understand that they can actually be put in control of their healthcare. And one of the things I educate them on is something called the Charge Master. I don't know, is that something you ever heard of? Or
Nope, never heard of.
Okay, that's another fun-filled thing. Back in the 60s, when I was growing up, you broke your arm, you went to the doctor or to the hospital. They set your arm, or they X-rayed it, set your arm, put a cast on it, and they knew how much that would cost, and they basically marked it up 10% and sent you on your way. What happened was Blue Cross Blue Shield came along, and they started offering insurance to employers for their employees. And once they started building up a large base of subscribers to their insurance policies, they went to the hospitals and they said, we want a discount and we want a big one because we got thousands of people that we're going to send your way. Well, the hospital says, well, there's no margin in it for that. So the Charge Master was born. And what they did was they take procedures, they marked it up to ridiculous amounts. That's that $60 blanket I mentioned. Just ridiculous amounts. That you've all heard about the $10 aspirins, those types of things. That's what they do. They mark up everything. And if you don't have a negotiated rate with an insurance, if you show up at the hospital, that's what they charge you. And it's obscene. And even hospital administrators will tell you, oh, nobody pays those rates. That's just for reference. No, they do charge those rates. And if you don't pay them, they'll sue you. And they will too. They'll garnish your wages. They'll come after. They're brutal. There's lots of stories about how the hospitals, and these are supposedly charitable and nonprofit hospitals, they do it for the tax break. But some of them can be brutal for coming after to pay the bills. So it comes down to understanding, what your obligations are, what you have to offer. For instance, if you know that you're going to be in the hospital for whatever reason, say it's voluntary surgery, hospitals won't tell you how much that costs. They use the term of, well, let's just get you feeling better first, then we'll worry about it. And we know what happens there, right?
Right.
Now, there are new laws coming down. And one of the reasons why I love indemnity plans so much is this is the future, in my opinion, depending upon how these elections go, of what healthcare is going to do. There's already a law in Florida. They already passed it. They're called transparency laws. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you need to go into the hospital and you're in Florida, you go in, the doctor looks at it, says, okay, we need to do a knee replacement for you. When you're walking out the door, they have to provide you with a price list. This is how much this is going to cost from the time you walk in the door to the time to walk out of the door. Okay. Right. Now, if you've got an indemnity plan, that's fantastic because you know exactly what your obligations are going to be. And you can even negotiate with them a little bit on that. But the way things are now, you go in for that knee surgery, you have no idea how much it's going to cost you till you come out.
Right.
And so that's brutal.
So on this indemnity, does it, it's medical. It obviously covers the things that you talked about more mm-hmm. than what Aflac does. What about dental and optical? Does it cover that is it just like a health plan or is it specific to, because there's, in most cases you have your health insurance and you have dental insurance and you have optical insurance. So it's all kind of different.
Yep.
How does that work with indemnity? Is it the same?
When I sell an indemnity plan, usually what happens is they end up with 5 plans. They have the medical side, they have a dental, they have an accident expense, which is similar to the Aflac type thing, to cover kind of the additional expenses that you're getting, kind of cover some of your income. But when you layer it like this, it's very inexpensive to do it compared to a major medical plan. Now, you mentioned vision and dental. I don't usually sell a lot of vision, mainly because it's too expensive for what you get. I mean, there's a place down the street from me here, 2 glasses, including an eye exam, for $59. Now, why would you pay $30 a month for a vision plan?
Right.
You know,
Right.
and that's you know, so that you just go get it on your own like that. That's easy. And just another quick comment about glasses and eye frames. Luxottica. Every pair of glasses, I'd say 80 to 90% of every glasses frames out there are made by Luxottica. They own everybody. They own Oakley. They own Ray-Ban. They own everybody, and they're the same glasses. You know, so just keep that in mind.
Okay.
From the dental plans, I do have dental, and I do sell a fair amount of dental. But what I ask people to do is to contact their dentist and saying, if I'm cash pay, what kind of rate will you give me? And, you know, you don't have to go through the insurance and all that. And a lot of times you can negotiate a pretty darn good rate and just pay direct with your dentist.
Right.
Dentists they do take insurance, but they love cash pay people, and they'll work all kinds of deals with you. I had one guy I met the other day. He's a new dentist moving in the area. He has a plan that he set up. It's a maintenance plan. It's $30 a month, and they do everything for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you need something like a root canal or something, it's heavily discounted.
Right.
But they love that type of thing. So I tend to ask people before we include a dental plan in this. Talk to your dentist and see what kind of deal you can get. I tell them how much it's going to be. As a matter of fact, I tell people that are looking at going with a plan, I get their particulars like age of the kids, you know, any pre-existing conditions, and I give them a price up front. This is what it's going to cost you. If you're interested, we'll get into the details. And usually they are, because they've looked at major medical and they'll say, well, this seems too good to be true, until I go through this with them, and they can't believe that, like you said, this, you know, they weren't aware that this type of thing exists. But to me, this is the future of healthcare.
Absolutely. Man, that's very encouraging. And as far as dental goes, my ex-wife is in the dental industry, and she deals with a lot of insurance. And so it kind of surprised me when I realized that most dental insurance have a cap of what they pay all year long. And that could be from $1,200 to $1,500. And if you know anything about going to the dentist, you can eat that up relatively quick.
Oh yeah.
And so you're, like you said, you're paying all this money every month. And you don't get a lot back from it from the insurance company. So and you're right, they will negotiate. Everybody would rather have cash.
Just to give you an insider secret, for me, the highest paid commission I make is on dental plans, because there's so much money in it. Because I mean, they're not anywhere near as expensive, obviously, as the hospital part, but you know, they're so protected. Like, you're right, they'll pay a maximum of $1,000 or $1,500. Generally, what they end up paying for is once a year X-rays and twice a year cleanings. Right. And you're gonna pay, you know, for the family, you'll pay $65 to $85 a month for that. There's good money in that. But to me, I'm more interested. If you want it, fine, I'll show it to you. But I tell them, talk to your dentist first. You can probably get a better deal. The eye care thing or the vision thing, go find one of these eye lab type places. They're fantastic, and they're very inexpensive. They offer all kinds of specials. Go to Groupon. My gosh, I was looking at a Groupon thing for a vision thing, unbelievably cheap. So really? That's why I don't really sell those, because you get a better deal elsewhere. I'm the guy that you want to talk to take care of your health plan. If there's something catastrophic that happens, I layer in plans to handle that. You know, so that your cap on this thing is in the $5 million frame. So, you know, it's, you know, you're well covered. If you hit $5 million worth of medical bills, you're pretty much dead.
Yeah. Yeah. Brian, are you still with us back there, man? I see.
Dude, I'm here. I'm just, like you said, a sponge absorbing knowledge. And that's the whole reason for having Greg on today. So I think you've probably opened a lot of folks' eyes to other possibilities that are out there. I did want to kind of bring it back to business and business owners.
Yeah.
We've been talking mostly individual type plans and what you can do for yourself. Greg, can you talk a few minutes, and we probably only have a few minutes left, but could you talk a few minutes about, if somebody as a business owner, a growing business, right? So I've got 2, 3, 4, 5 employees up to 10, 15. So not a huge business, but certainly a business that is sizable enough to offer, valuable healthcare type incentives. What, I guess, twofold question: what policies are out there? One, do you do those? And then number two, give me a rough ballpark of. I know there's going to be all kinds of variables, but give me a rough ballpark on a per employee or per head cost for each of those.
Sure. Well, a lot of it depends on ages and conditions, and if they want to include their family. When we kind of back up a little bit, and we'll talk a little bit about businesses. I love doing small businesses. I'd probably be completely over my head if I had a company that had thousands of employees. That's not really what I'm focusing on. I like employers that have got, some employer I have that has 4 employees. I've got other ones that have got like 30. And we give them a choice on how they want to do this. The way I present it to them is like, look, I can set up this plan for you and your family, however you want, or just you, however you want to do it. But you can also make the same exact plan available to your employees. And there's a couple of ways to do it. One way would be for just to have me come in and do a presentation, and then they can just buy direct from me or whatever. That's fine, but I want to make the boss look good. And the way I do that is I tell the boss, I said, look, you can deduct this from their checks. And we do what's called a list bill. Each month they get a bill from the insurance company for the employees that they have on it. And the employees can either insure themselves or insure their families. It's their call on what they want to do. The good news on this is they don't get COBRA'd if they're paying for all of it. They're already paying for all of it, and they can take it with them. It's completely portable. If they decide to go in business for themselves, they just take their policy with them. They just, the boss takes it off the list bill. They just line it out and delete it, and then the employee can then just take it over from there. Now, the employer has the choice. The employer can make this available to their employees, and they'll do it on a list bill where the employer will take it out of their check. And the employer doesn't have to pay anything, or the employer can pay 10% of it, 50% of it, or all of it. And they can also set it up to where, say, they have some employees that have been with them longer. They may want to pay maybe 50% of theirs. And the employers that have been on board maybe a year or less, they'll pay 25% or 10 or whatever. It's up to them. They completely do it. And under the new rules, it used to be if you made this available to one employee, you had to make it available to all. The way these plans are structured and the way the law is now, you don't have to make this available to all your employees. So if you just have like a group that's been with you for a long time and you want to offer them health insurance, you can offer it to them and not offer it to your other employees. Now, you're going to have a way to explain that to your employees, obviously, once they find out, the other group is getting health care. But you can do that. And a lot of it is like, yeah, after you're here for 5 years, I'll make this available to you, or after a year or whatever. But it's completely flexible like that. So you can look like a real hero to your employees by offering this, because like you, they're out looking at the healthcare.gov sites and talking to people about major medical. And one of the problems too, when you go out online to look for health insurance, free quotes, they'll hit you with your name, phone number, emails, the whole bit, and all your information. And then they sell that information. You'll be inundated.
Oh my God,
you will get, I've had people tell me they've had 30, 40 phone calls a day, just hounding them. Obviously I don't work that way. Give me your particulars. Here's how much it's going to be. If you want to move forward, text me, email me, or call me, and we'll set up a time where we go through it. That's it. But as far as the employers go, the way that I would do it would be have a conversation with them. Do they want to pay all of it? None of it? Do they want to do a list bill where they take it out of the check? Or do they want to have their employees do it direct through me? That's fine. Then I'll come out and I'll do multiple sessions based on shift times, or maybe I'll do a lunch and learn. I'll explain to them exactly how this plan works and how they can get on top of their health insurance and take control of it. And they're very happy. The cancellation rate I have is extremely low. And I've the worst case scenario I had somebody call me up and say that they were in financial trouble. They were looking to cut costs. They didn't want to cut costs on their health insurance. So I went through because, like I say, I sell them 5 different plans, and we eliminated dental. We eliminated not the accident, but the catastrophic disease portion of it temporarily. They can add it back in later, just to lower the cost on, because they were looking for ways to save money. I will work with them on that too, and that's one advantage. If you go online and sign up, you don't know who you're talking to. Me, I have people call me up all the time, asking me what they need to do, help me file a claim. I'll do all that with them.
Awesome.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Definitely, yeah, we are about out of time, Brian. I definitely want to, Greg, have you on some other shows, because I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs that are in our audience and part of the difference that would love to hear what you're talking about, because this is all new to me, and I definitely want to learn more about it. Really quick, when, and this is kind of what we started with, and then I'm going to let Brian finish up with, I think he wants to mention a couple of his partners, sponsors, and things like that. Why do the insurance companies not allow the entrepreneurs to develop an organization so that they could get a group rate, even though why can Walmart have 50,000 employees on a group policy, but you can't get 50,000 entrepreneurs together under an organization and have a policy? Why is that such a challenge?
They just don't like to do it. The Walmarts are the big fishes. This involves a lot more work and management. So the smaller groups you get into, there's a lot of work that's involved when you put together a group plan. You're assigned people. They have to come out once a year during this time of open enrollment. Oh, and by the way, just real quick on this, there is no open enrollment deadline on these plans. You can enroll anytime you want on these plans. So that's not there. But back to the subject is, they just don't like to do it. It's they like the big fish, to get a group of people together to have this type of offering, where they get a group discount. They don't see much benefit to doing that. They'd rather these people have to pay full price, and they'll give the deals to the Walmarts of the world.
Okay.
They're not nice people, a lot of these insurance people.
No, they're a challenge. But well, Greg, man, it was a great show, great info.
Thank you.
Definitely want to know more, and we'll talk to you about possibly being a guest on another one of Brian's shows or other shows that we have, because I think that you definitely have something to share that not a lot of people know about and could really make the difference in their lives. I mean, you can't make much more difference than having affordable health insurance. But I'm going to turn it over to Brian, you now, and you talk a little bit about, I know you got a couple people you want to mention, I think.
Thank you all.
Sure. I'm going to talk about Delicate Moving. There we go. Awesome. So just take a minute here to talk about Delicate Moving and their team of movers. Delicate Moving has been providing outstanding moving and packing services to thousands of customers in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex for over 25 years. James Kern and his team are awesome. With their commitment to only hiring qualified, highly trained, and skilled movers, you can count on Delicate Moving to provide you with a 5-star moving experience. Call or email Delicate Moving today for a free quote, 214-972-0502, or email them at info at delicatemoving, DELICATE moving, one word.com.
All right. And we also, I'd like to mention Creek and Timber, obviously 2 good friends of yours and mine, Brian, yep. Dustin Payne and Shannon Cagle. And let me find the information here. I want to make sure we get this right. But Creek and Timber Legacy, they provide outdoor learning, hunting, and firearm therapy for veterans, first responders, and children with serious illness, so to enrich their lives through outdoor experiences. So we'll have their, at the end of the show, we'll have their email on, but I believe it's creekandtimberlegacy.org. And great organization, nonprofit. The two guys that are heading this up are just, I mean, they're incredible people. They give back so much, and they are making a difference for our veterans, for children and things like that. So we really appreciate them being a part of Real Property Management and the difference. So, Brian, I'm going to let you close us out. And again, Greg, thank you so much for being a part of our show today. Great info. And as I said at the beginning of the show, man, I've got a page full of notes here on things I didn't know about. So, well, it was worth my hour. I promise you that. So, anyway, thanks for being here. And Brian, you can close us out.
Awesome. Well, I reiterate those thanks to you, Greg. Thanks for being here today. Hopefully you guys learned a little something out there. Other than that, if you need property management services, look us up, Real Property Management Focus, where we focus on your real estate investments. Until next week, see ya.
The Difference is a proud supporter of the following nonprofits. Creek and Timber Legacy, providing outdoor learning, hunting, and firearm therapy for veterans, first responders, and children with serious illness. You can find more info at creekandtimberlegacy.org. And Sharp Shoes. Through local schools and shelters, Sharp Shoes helps provide new shoes for countless needy people and their families. You can find more info at sharpshoes.org.